farther away from this air conditioning, or I'm going to be a popsicle.
So
she doesn't mean she's going to be cold. She's going to actually be a popsicle.
That's right. Actually be a popsicle.
And if you were a popsicle, what flavor popsicle would you be?
Oh,
And why?
Melissa, you got to know better.
What?
I would be
know better
sparkly
than to ask those
rainbow
questions.
flavored. Duh.
Sorry.
That's a flavor, right?
I'm trying to remember what it was. You were.
Put this on me. It'll make me warm. Come
Oh,
on,
yeah,
computer, do your job. Make me warm.
Melissa, did you ever look up what it meant for the drapes to match the carpet?
Mental stay.
No, I never did, and they never told me either.
Well, so if the hair on your head was the drapes,
What?
yeah.
Oh.
I can't hear you. See,
Yeah.
my computer is
So-
stupid. Why are
so
you
some-
stupid, computer?
So somebody who colors their hair on their head, the drapes would therefore then not match the carpet. Does that make sense?
It
Oh,
does.
I understand what you're saying. I don't have any hair down there, though.
I never would have guessed that in a million years. I really was trying to figure out how drapes and carpets could be dirty.
So they were Alexia, to bring you up to speed, we haven't started the show yet, but to bring you up to speed, they were having a conversation on the Delta Quadrant, and someone was talking about like the quarters, the actual crew quarters on Voyager, and someone said something about the drapes matching the carpet, and Melissa very innocently said, well, yes, of course the drapes should match the carpet, and everybody just kind of pauses and is like, do you know what you said? And she's like, what? And they said, we're not going to tell you.
That is really funny. Like, I don't know why they wouldn't tell you. Like, that's rude. But that's funny that you didn't know that. How adorable.
They wouldn't. And not only would they not tell me, but I think Gino specifically said, and we're not going to tell you. Like,
that's just rude, man. That's not fine.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome now that we have corrupted you officially.
That's what happened to come on Trekoff.
Although, to be fair, you've corrupted yourself somewhat this season.
It's
on
true.
Trekoff. There's been more cursing. It's been great. I've loved it.
I did. I went on this wild tirade this one night, and I swore repeatedly.
Ooh.
It was the same word over and over again, but.
Hey man, it's all that counts is that you were swearing. I mean, what word it was not
what's
really.
important.
That's not what's important. Yeah.
If you decided ragamuffin was a swear word and started saying ragamuffin over and over again, that'd be fine.
See, now that's exactly what I did, though, right? I created my own swear words like ratzelfrippen, and I used to say that all the time, and the guys used to think that was really funny. But that was my swear word.
I think it's cute.
I think it's good, and there was a point in my life where I used to, when I was in high school. In fact, we'll talk about that on the show.
I have to tell you that right now Mr. A is like cooking this fucking food, and it smells so good because I've had like no food today. It's really rude.
Didn't you just go ice skating or something?
I did, so I'm really fucking tired.
It's like 70 degrees here today too. I guess it was inside. I assume.
Yeah.
They have those? That's amazing.
Yeah.
What is this future world? Are we on Hoth? It's incredible.
Are we on Hoth? Have you never gone to Fairfax Ice Arena?
No.
No.
I've been to Cabin John out in Maryland.
I don't know
where I live. Ice rinks are quite common.
Yeah, I mean, there's several in our area, like in the Northern Virginia type area. There's like quite a few.
If you ever come out to D.C., you totally have to hang out with us.
I will do that. I would definitely do that. Actually, I had my cousins lived in D.C. My cousin was going to college at the Catholic University of America, and they lived there for the last 4 years. And they just moved back to North Dakota. It was a totally different experience for them. They lived in a not so nice part of town apparently, and my cousin my cousin was almost mugged multiple times.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Yes. But she walked to school a lot, and see, she's born and raised in North Dakota. She's like 5'8". And with long blonde hair and blue eyes and smiley, and I'm sure she greeted everyone because that's what we do.
Oh no!
So I'm not,
Yeah, that might not be the best thing to do in a big city.
Especially where is it? Where is Catholics like still Northern Virginia, isn't it? I'm not that familiar with the. It's weird. My great uncle was a commencement speaker at Catholic once.
Oh, really?
Yeah, long time ago.
Wow.
When I was a kid.
I honestly don't know where it is, but I know that she would walk there to go to class, and apparently, all I know is that the university is actually in a bad neighborhood. But
a lot of the colleges here are like University of Maryland is
Yeah.
not a super great place.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that much about the colleges around here, but what it always makes me think of, like what your little story makes me think of, was the when he goes to New York City in Crocodile Dundee and he's like, "Good eye, good eye," so, like everybody's like super friendly.
That's not a knife.
well, okay, but in defense of people like myself, so when you live here, if you don't smile at people or wave at them or say hello, like, as you're walking down the street or whatever, then people think you're rude. So
Oh no, it's like that in Southern California too. Even in like the bad areas of Southern California, like if you like, it was a strange thing because my wife is from upstate New York, which is also like very very small towns up there. But when she came, most of my family is from Southern California, and when we went out to visit them, like in the area where I grew up, there was an intersection, and we're waiting just to like walk across the street to Target or whatever, and there's you have to push the little button to wait for the walk guy to come up and tell you it's okay to walk. And we push the button, there are other people waiting there, and everyone's like, hey, how you doing? Cool. Yeah, cool. And my wife was like, what are they doing? Why are they talking to me? And I was like, no, it's okay. And so are they all just friendly? I was like, no, they might mug you here still. It's fine. They'll just like say hi first.
They'll say hi first. That's funny. Like I don't do well in New York, I feel like, because I don't know if I just like have sucker tattooed on my head or something, but like I don't or I haven't perfected the bitch face. Like I've had other New Yorkers like tell me like,
so I've been in New York with you.
Bitch face.
I've been in New York with you, and you have these like wide eyes, like, ooh, toy. It's like everything is a toy. Like the building is a big giant toy store. I actually went into a toy store with you.
It's so exciting there. Maybe that's why I look like a mark. Like they're just like, oh, honey, let's try to sell this girl something, or let me give her the whole I'm stuck here and I need money to get out spiel, or whatever it is. Like, because I'm not at all. I'm too happy. I'm like, yay! Look at all the lights. It's exciting. And like they just see me coming a mile away. I guess they're just like unprepared.
My first year in college, we went on choir tour and we went to Chicago, and the bus parked, I don't know, like downtown, and drops us all off and says, come back in 4 hours. And so myself and three other young ladies set out down the street, and we had no idea what we were doing. We were all from rural Minnesota, North Dakota, and we got maybe 3 blocks, and this woman, looking in very desperate state, comes up to us and tells us all about her starving children, and and we feel just brokenhearted, and
sure.
And all 4 of us gave her all the money that we had.
Oh.
And then we had to turn around and walk back to the bus because we were broke. And so we get back to the bus, and I remember my choir director hadn't even left. He was still like talking to the bus driver, and we got yelled at. And
oh yeah, I know that.
I can imagine. See, that's what happened to me the first time I ever went to New York, like by myself. I was like taking an acting class, or I was doing something acting down there. So like I went by myself. So I get off the bus, and the exact same thing. It wasn't a woman, but it was a dude, and he was like, told me his whole sob story, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like to the point where I didn't have any cash on me. I like went across the street to try to go to the bank to give this guy money. Like, and this was like maybe 5 years, so it's not even like I have the excuse that I was like a youngster. That, like,
I remember when you were doing your classes in New York. That was like since this show has started.
Yeah, so like it wasn't that long ago, and like when I called Daryl because it wouldn't work, like I couldn't get the card to work, and he was like, I don't know what's wrong, and he was like, oh, something's wrong with the account, and he's like, why do you need it, and what's going on anyway? I was like, well, this guy, he's like, get the fuck out of the bank. Leave the bank now. Like, it's like, stop. So I was like, I'm really sorry. I don't actually even have money for myself, so I'm really freaked out right now. So I gotta go. But
no, there's this story, of course, because this is Trekoff, the story is a little profane, but I'm going to tell it anyway. I'm a big listener to the Kevin Smith podcast. It's how I got into podcasting, is listening to them. And he told this story of like one of the very, very few times in his life he had ever gone to a strip club. And he said it's interesting because I walk into a strip club and I'm there and they're the women are dancing around on stage and they're topless and you don't like when you're me, you don't, when he's talking about himself, he goes like, you don't know what to look at. Like you're like, do I look? Is it okay for me? Is it okay for what? Is it okay? Oh no. And so afterward, the strippers walk around and they start talking to people, and he said what you want to show, what you feel like showing is like, no, really, I'm really a nice guy. I'm not like those other guys. Is the way he wants to like portray himself. And so one of the strippers comes up to him and he was like, hey, no, you did a great job up there. I mean, you danced very well. It was very sexy. It was very nice. And she's like, thanks. It's been a tough week. He's like, what? What's up? And she was like, well, I was up there the other day and I was dancing and came on, you have these jerks they come here and they, this guy was up there and he, we were just kind of hanging out and he seemed nice and then he stuck his finger in my asshole. And he said that he was immediately like, oh my gosh, and she was like, yeah, but just part of the job, whatever. And he said that he felt really, really bad. And there he was Kevin Smith. He had already had money, and so he was like, well, here, look, man, go do something nice for yourself. Here's a couple $100, whatever. So that happens. He said that he left town and he was doing something else. The next time he came into town, someone else decided to take him to that strip club like a couple of weeks later. And he's sitting there a couple of weeks later, and someone comes up, and the same stripper's there, and she comes up to him talking the exact same way. He doesn't introduce himself as the guy from before. She goes, yeah, I'm just having this really, really tough week.
That's terrible.
It was all because she recognized him as being the guy who was being the nice guy, and she learned that this story worked to make the nice guy go, oh, I'm going to help you out. Yeah. Yeah, P.T. Barnum said there's a sucker born every minute. Oh my! I can't hear you. Are you there? Did I shock you? I'm sorry.
No, I'm here. Can you still not hear me?
Alexia, it might be you I can't hear. Say hi. Nope.
Yeah, I can barely hear her either.
I can see you. I'm not hearing you tap. I see your light is on.
Ah!
Oh, you're back. No, you're back. Oh, okay, you're really back now.
Okay, see? I don't know what to do. Fuck.
Oh.
Just don't move. Stay very still.
It's not the microphone. It's not the fucking microphone. It's the fucking laptop because it's a fucking piece of shit. Okay?
Welcome to our show.
Glad that we can have this talk, babe.
All right, good. We've warmed up. Okay, fingers, assholes, fucking piece of... Got it. Good. Welcome to Trekoff. Here we go.
So
let's talk about... Sorry?
I was going to say, I told the boys that I was coming on this show tonight, and they all gave me a little bit of advice. Gino told me not to clear my throat and to enjoy myself, because that's what he always tells me. And Ben told me I have to be nice to Janeway.
We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about that. I don't know about that now.
And Matt actually hasn't given me any advice, so...
Which is weird because Matt is Matt has been our primary point of contact.
Right.
Like Matt is the one who's always been I know that Ben has listened to the show. I know that Gino's listened to the show. I feel like Gino and I have almost similar personalities in some ways. But Matt has been, we get along really, really, and we get along with everyone, but it's Matt has been the one who's always like, okay, it's your turn to come on.
Well, that's probably why Matt didn't give you any advice, because he knows you'll just be fine, because no one will bite you or eat you. I mean, unless you want us to.
We're pretty far away. I want to show the screen at you.
All
right, here we go.
I wasn't. Yeah. Okay.
All right, showtime.
For real this time.
Lion face, lemon face. Okay. Welcome to Trekoff. My name is Justin.
And my name is Alexia.
Today, we are 1 week after the release of the second Star Wars trailer, which we of course talked about the night it was released. We are in no way recording this before that.
No, definitely
not at all.
That's not happening.
We are not in any way restraining ourselves from wanting to talk about that to a later show, which we will then post earlier. That's not happening.
That's not happening.
That's not happening. What we are talking about today is is girl Trek, man. Trek for the ladies. Trek with the ladies. Trek. What's it like to be a lady Trek fan? Something I don't know, but as you know, as a man, I had opinions of looking at, but I can't just do it on my own.
And I bitch a fair amount about it, but we have something more to bring to the table.
Yes, well, because
that's just one perspective, right?
Yeah, you have a particular perspective. But we have been honestly, quite frankly, a sausage fest with our guests. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know if we've had any female guests.
No,
I think
not a one.
One or two, if maybe. But this is so. It's always interesting to me, and I've said this before. When I get to have people that I am like a fan of come be on our show. And this is as much as we've had stars on our show. The most fun people for us to talk to, for me, is always the people at the Delta Quadrant, which is the Star Trek Voyager podcast, which is in its sort of final season, sort of. I hope they have another plan for what's coming next, because every week they come out with they're going through the entire show from beginning to end, and they talk for an hour, somewhere between an hour and 3, on the episode that they're talking about. And they are 4 episodes from the end of the show. I listen to this show. I listen to this show every week, and I've listened to this show every week for coming up on a couple of years now. We've had a relationship with them. We've been on their show. I was on their show 2 shows ago for them. You and I have both been on their show. Other people on their show have been on our show, but for me it's always fun because I spend an hour a week listening to these people. These people are it's you have Kevin Smith that I listen to, big movie star I listen to, and then these guys too. And it's they're equal in my mind as being the magical people on the other end of the headphones. But this time I'm going to hear one of them talk, and they're going to talk back.
They're going to talk to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, they're the sexy, sultry siren from the Velta Quadrant?
The Velta Quadrant.
The Vagina Quadrant.
The Vag Quadrant.
Yes.
No?
From the Delta Quadrant, Melissa, hi. Welcome to Trekoff.
Hello. I'm so happy to finally be here.
I'm so happy that you're here too. I'm happy to have another set of tits up in here. Another badge. There
we go.
Sorry, poor Melissa. She was maybe it would be not so crass, but Alexia can't do it. I can't.
Yeah, let's just put it right out there on Front Street. But Melissa is the most reserved member of that
she
group.
Is. It's adorable.
If you listen to our show, you've heard Matt a few times. And then it goes in a spectrum, from Matt to Gino to Ben to Melissa, sort of the spectrum that it goes on. And she's that lovely laugh you're hearing is sort of what you hear when they're she's the oh my gosh when one of them is dropping a penis joke or something. But the reason I want to have her on board for this particular topic is because what Melissa brings to that show a lot of the time is when they are ragging on a certain issue or ragging on a certain thing that is 3 guys saying, this is stupid, this doesn't appeal to me because we're men and we're stupid. She often brings this perspective that I didn't have because I'm a man and I'm stupid and I'm usually agreeing with them, and then she hits me right in the side of the head with an opinion that I hadn't considered, and sometimes makes me completely change my mind on a topic. So
wow, that's practically magical, Melissa. Really.
Wow, I'm really touched. That's great.
Well, because you know what? Because if I am wrong, and I am sometimes, I never admit it, but I am
always wrong.
That's the thing, though. Alexia will do what she just did. She's going, you're always wrong, you stupid asshole, and that's
you're
it.
You're always wrong, you dumbass.
So I don't. So I immediately just go well, and I argue.
You can fuck you then.
But it's
because Melissa's nice that you're fuck, she's right.
Yeah, well,
I'm a dumbass.
Yeah.
I love it, Melissa. That's amazing.
Yeah, she because you don't feel defensive at all about it, and then she says it, and you're your defenses are down, and when your defenses are down, she's like a ninja, like an opinion, a pinja, right there.
He's just waiting. I love it. See, so what we don't all know is that, like, actually, in the dark, the quiet, Melissa is, like, freakier than any of us. Like, she's wild and crazy and crass, all by her little lonesome, and it's this great secret that she keeps because she's ninja-ing all the time. I love it.
Well, and to let you guys see behind the scenes, we're recording this on. We're gonna let you talk in a second, I promise. But
I swear, we'll let you talk. We'll stop talking about how awesome you are and let people experience it for themselves.
But behind the scenes, we are recording this. Normally, we use a different program to record, but because they use Google Hangouts, that's what we use. And every time one of us talks, a video of us talking comes up. But Melissa's just a picture, a still picture that's been there for a long time, and it's never a video of her.
Yes.
So I am convinced that she's like all gothed out. Like on the other side, like she's got black lipstick and she looks nothing like that, and she's like
she's
black
naked.
lipstick.
You're totally naked. I'm sorry, but you are, baby. To me, you're naked. I can't see.
I have
So
no
you're
opinion.
so naked and
no
beautiful
opinion.
and glorious in my brain.
Aww.
So,
I'm
welcome to
terrible. You
Trekoff.
can't take me anywhere.
You're on fire tonight too. It's amazing. Like it's incredible. Melissa, welcome. We're glad you're here.
We're so glad that
Oh,
you're here.
well, thank you. I am really excited to be here. I have to say, I have been waiting a long time to get to come and be on your show. There was a Pony Express involved and a pager
Yes.
and a
Faxes
The
and
facts.
are sent to you.
right. Yes. But I'm very excited to be here. This is great. And I think, honestly, over at the Delta Quadrant, we have some of the most fun that we have ever had. Whenever we have either of you or both of you on the show, it's you're just so fun to talk to, and besides and over and above, I think you have a lot of really intelligent things as well that you share with the Trek world, and I have listened to a number of your episodes as well, and I think that you do a great job of really getting into the meat and potatoes of what Star Trek is all about and the reasons why we all grew up loving this show or fell in love with it at whatever point that we did, because it's just really quality storytelling.
That transitions really well into the question we've asked of everyone from Clint Howard to you. Why Trek? Why Trek? Tell us your Trek story, because that's just fascinating to me. How and why someone gets into Trek, and how you started out as someone who had never seen Trek before to somebody who is one of the hosts of a Star Trek podcast. How'd that happen?
Okay. Well, as a little girl, I remember getting to stay up late to watch reruns of the original series with my mom.
Yes.
And so the first Star Trek crew that I ever knew and loved was Kirk and Spock and McCoy, and I thought they were wonderful. And then when I was in kindergarten, Star Trek: The Next Generation came out on the air, and I immediately fell in love with that show. And I think Captain Picard really has been a lifelong hero for me. Just his intelligence and the fact that he was such a Renaissance man, you know, and besides being intelligent, he was a truly wise character, I think.
And classy.
And yes, and he was classy, and it was easy to look up to him. And I think I've always been in love with storytelling. I read lots and lots and lots of books as a kid growing up. I grew up on a farm, and in the summer, that's what I did. I would just read book after book after book, and I think Star Trek is just really great storytelling, and it's a lot of morality tales, and it's a lot of social commentary, and so that just really connected with me. So I grew up watching Star Trek: The Next Generation, and then, you know, honestly, I didn't watch Star Trek Voyager the first time it was on television because I was in college then and just busy doing other things and getting into my career, and really started watching Star Trek again with the advent of Netflix and having access to it, and so really kind of got back into the series. I started listening to a couple of other podcasts, and really it was just kind of an odd circumstance that I was invited to be I thought I was just being invited to be a guest on the Delta Quadrant. They were actually, I guess, interviewing me to become a co-host. They invited me back a couple of times. I thought it was great, and then one day they said, well, we'd like you to join the podcast, and that's really how that happened.
That's awesome. I love it. I
That's
love that
so
you grew
fun.
up on it as well. That's amazing. Like especially because like where you're coming from, like coming from a farm. Like I'm like, in my brain, of course, you know, if you're living on a farm, like you don't have a TV for whatever reason, and you don't get to watch it. And I don't know what people do on farms.
Did you have to go to the local general store to what? No, I'm kidding.
Stop.
No, we didn't. But however, we had like three television stations. We actually had a black and white television until I was 12, and
Wow.
I remember getting our first color television because there was this show called Elf. Do you remember Elf?
I do remember
He was
Elf.
always wanting. He
Gordon
was wanting to like
Shumway,
eat the
he ate
cats.
cats.
Yes, exactly.
Ow,
Okay.
ow!
Well,
Yes, I love
So-
that show.
yes. So anyway, I had been watching Elf in black and white for a while, and then I remember we got our color television, and the first time I ever saw the episode of that in color, in my imagination, Elf was purple. Because, you know, in black and white, you don't know.
Yeah.
And so I remember the first time seeing him in color, and he wasn't purple. I was very disappointed. But
yeah, I can imagine.
Wow.
You were like, dude, why aren't you
but anyway,
You're just like dog colored.
Yeah.
I know, it was very boring. But Star Trek was really one of the very few television shows that I ever got to watch. And we did spend most of our time playing outside and using our imagination. So, you know, there were maybe a couple of shows that I watched on television. Star Trek was one of them. And so when we were on the school bus and playing make-believe or, you know, running around outside, we imagined about Star Trek because...
Oh, did you? Did
that
you
was
like
the show
pretend
that we
you were on other planets and
Oh
like,
my
go on
gosh.
missions?
Absolutely. I went I dressed up for Halloween as Dr. Crusher 3 years in a row.
Yay!
Because I have
Hot.
red hair, she had red hair, and I remember my mom had this long blue jacket that I basically stole from her and just used for that Halloween costume. But I looked nothing like her. But it was great.
People at least know who you were. Like when you would go trick or treating, did they like recognize, or was it like people were like,
No,
"Who
I
are
had
you?"
to. I had to explain it. And you know, the great thing was I had no idea that like to love Star Trek was something that wasn't necessarily cool. I mean, I had no idea that just wasn't a thing. I remember there were 12 kids in my grade.
Oh my
Throughout
God.
elementary
Oh
school,
my goodness!
and
Oh my goodness.
four girls and 8 boys. And there was one other boy in my class. His name was Michael. And Michael and I would sit next to each other on the school bus. And he also loved to watch Star Trek: The Next Generation. And so every morning on the school bus, that's all we would talk about was whatever the episode was that week. We would just talk about it. I mean, and we had no idea that wasn't cool, you know. So
We were, you know, honestly, if
That
we were,
is incredibly cool. That is so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
if we weren't talking about like Star Trek today, I would like just want to like talk to you for hours about what it's like to grow up. Like just like the growing up podcast. Because like when I was first of all, we're both Alexia and I are I'll just say I'm somewhat older than you,
Mhm.
and so
I think
like
people know we're like the same age, dude.
yeah, we're the same. Sorry. So I was like in 6th grade when Next Gen came out, but like when I was the age that you were then, I was like in the suburbs of LA or the suburbs of Phoenix. Like it's just, or like outside of San Francisco. So it's like a farm is like a place that you visited on field trips.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and your listeners are going to be just bored to death by this, but like there was this huge culvert in the corner, like on our farm, and do you know what a culvert is?
No,
No
It's a big
idea.
round.
no, I didn't want to say anything.
Okay.
Oh, what is it?
Okay, I'm sorry. It's a big round cement tube that the water flows through from the ditches, and cattails grow in it, and there are little frogs that, you know. Anyway, I bring it up because so these culverts were great places for like using your imagination, and we used to like take chalk in them, and so like we would go and we would play Starship because you could take your chalk and you could like draw the consoles on the concrete around you, and there's this really cool echo effect, and it was great.
That sounds amazing. We need to go to your farm and play. We should totally do that.
It was great. It was an awesome place to grow up. It really was.
That's so fun.
That's amazing. I love it. I love that you didn't feel bad about your love for the start. That you had like a little friend that you could just like geek out with on the way to school. That's awesome.
Yeah, it really was. And I remember. So I work in church ministry, and I remember when I started doing this podcast, and I just totally missed out, I think, on the whole phenomenon of, okay, this isn't cool. So I'll be like directing choir, and I'll just make a Star Trek reference,
Get a bunch of blank stares, right? Like what?
No, see, that's
hopefully
just it.
No one from your
wonderful.
Work. Just want to say that. I want it to be clear for human resources wherever she works. Keep in mind the difference between what we're saying and what she's saying, and that she is in no way advocating what we're saying. And also, we may or may not be playing sort of caricaturized versions of our real selves, like the disclaimer at the beginning of this show says, that it's for entertainment purposes only, in case my HR is also listening to it right now. Just wanted to be
okay, but no offense.
But so there's been this wonderful thing that's happened at my church ever since I've been working here in the last 5 years, where I'll make a Star Trek reference and somebody will hear it and they'll pick up on it and they'll laugh. And so over the last couple of years, what I've learned is that almost everyone in my choir is a Star Trek fan. But they sort of slowly, they had to test the waters to make sure it was okay for anybody else to know. And I've just never been like that. I've been like, I love this show. This is great. And
what's wrong with loving the show? It's an awesome show.
Exactly. And I wonder.
Alternative lifestyle. That's
yes, Star Trek is my dark hobby.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. I think that's adorable. I had no idea. That totally sounds like that would be what would happen though. Like if there were a lot of people that like it, that it would be this sort of slow burn where one person would let out a laugh and then oh, was that okay? And then eventually it slowly ripples through everybody, and then you all realize, hey, wait a minute. We all love the Star Trek because we're all a bunch of geeks and this is awesome. Yay!
Yes, that is exactly what happened. I mean, so if you could see my office right now, on one wall I have a picture of Jesus, on another wall I have a picture of Mary, and on this wall back here I actually have a newspaper clipping with Spock in the corner, that says, "I have been and always will be your friend." This is my office, and people just know this about me, and they're okay with it,
That's awesome. It's cool that you've never really had to go through the ridicule part of being a Trek fan, where people think that you're weird.
Do you think that's more of a guy thing? I mean, I don't know. Maybe being a woman and being a Star Trek fan, it's just easier from the get-go.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I mean, I know that when I was watching the Next Generation, I was in high school, so I had several geeky guy friends that also liked Star Trek, but it wasn't something that I don't feel like we really advertised or talked about at school. But we would be in our own little geek, circle over in a corner somewhere quietly, talking Trek in the way that you do, passionately, like you and I, do, where we have a discussion about the episode that we just saw, or gets to be intense, because you know how we get, people get, about the Trek.
Yeah.
And it was, but I felt accepted by them. I never felt from my fellow Trek people, I've always felt accepted as a woman. I've never felt it was anything other than positive that I liked Trek. But I definitely felt from mainstream people, the jocks in my school, or the sort of the norm that was popular, we were weird. That's a weird thing, and you didn't want to tell people that you liked Star Trek openly. Right?
it's
Like,
weird,
now
it's
I don't
weird,
give
though,
a
'cause
fuck. Like, now I'm like, I'm a big geek and I love Star Trek, and if you don't like it, you can pretty much suck my dick. But like, I did not have that same level then, in high school where I just wanted, it's like, please don't hate me. Please, I'm okay. I'm an alright kind of person.
and clearly, I don't want to say that every conversation that is ever had is between a guy and a girl, because that's clearly, they're the way girls interact with girls and the way guys interact with guys. And I don't know how girls interact with girls, or it's a mystery to me. I don't know what happens there.
I don't know how that works.
I don't. I'm sorry. But I can say this. I do feel like there was, if you're a guy and a girl finds out that you like Star Trek, you in high school could be immediately written off for that. Like, you like Star Trek,
Wow.
that could be the thing that, if you were a guy and you got labeled liking a geeky thing, that could
That you are
be.
now undateable. Like,
But I don't feel it was the other way around. I feel like that if you were a girl and you liked a geeky thing, that was not. And let me take away geeky. When you were a guy, if you liked a less than masculine thing, yeah, I felt like that you could be written off for one reason or another. But I felt like that didn't really happen the other way. If you were a girl and said you liked Star Trek, I can't imagine that would be something that would ever be a deal breaker. Like, it would seem like it would be more like a deal breaker if you're like, I'm a girl and I love football and guns. Now, there's
No,
nothing wrong with loving football.
like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like that's not true, because I feel like I mean, obviously, I feel like in high school I was imminently undateable. Like, I didn't have a boyfriend. I like almost never had a boy. I think I had one boyfriend the whole time I was in, and strangely enough, I think his name was Justin, which is really weird right now. But I know.
And it was me, which was also weird.
No, it was not you. That would have been so weird.
I was two people. No,
Because you were two people, but like, yeah, I was not, like, I had like no game in high school, and I felt like I didn't really have any girlfriends either. Like, all my friends were boys. Like, I didn't have, and so especially when it came to Star Trek, like, only recently have I started having like these in-depth sort of Star Trek conversations with other women, and it's like, this is so cool, like, because I never had that. Like, I never had a girl that I could like geek out about Star Trek with. Like, I just didn't have that. It was always guys, and it's like, what I find, what it feels like you're like a jewel to me, Melissa. Like, that's how it feels to me. It's like, oh, you like it too. Like, you have titties and a vag, and you like it too. Yay!
Well,
that should be on a T-shirt.
That should totally be on a T-shirt for Star Trek.
I can relate to that sentiment, though, because most of my friends have always been men. I've never really had that many girlfriends, and I guess I've always seen it. It's funny that, Justin, you mentioned, or I might have misunderstood you, but you almost mentioned that somehow to like Star Trek for a guy was like less than masculine or something.
Yeah, sure.
And I find that interesting, because I've always thought of the fact that I like Star Trek as being a masculine thing, and
Right.
and maybe I've just always seen it that way because most of the people that I'm relating with are men when I'm talking about this, and I've just always been more comfortable, I think, relating with men and just having conversations. I went to school, and my bachelor's degree is in philosophy, and I was one of maybe 2 girls in my entire program. And in my line of work, I work with a lot of men, and I'm just always having conversations on that level. And so I've always seen Star Trek as kind of more of a masculine thing. It's a cerebral show. It's there's kind of a military structure to it. But what I love about it is I think there's a real element of a heroic element to Star Trek in that
Definitely.
you have all of these people who have devoted their lives to this mission that they're on. And I think because that's just sort of the background of the show that we don't really think too much about that. But I mean, when you pick any one of the series, the people who are on that ship have left behind their personal interests, their loved ones, their families, their friends, and they have sacrificed years of their lives, or perhaps their entire lives, to go on this mission, and there's just something so heroic about that at the very beginning that the show is based on, that was just always so inspiring to me. And I always thought of that as kind of the masculine element of the show.
And I will and I'll and I
Yeah,
and
it
I'll
always felt heroic. Like, yeah, I feel you on that. Like, if ever a guy told me that they were into, like, it told me something about the guy that was good, right? Like,
Right.
it was like, you then get
You know what I think the
heroism
thing is?
and-
You know what I think it is? I think that maybe that's true, and that finding out that somebody liked Star Trek would tell you something about the guy. I never felt like finding out, at least as a guy, that if a guy found out that a girl liked Star Trek, that would tell you anything about them.
Okay.
That you would not be defined. But like, if you're a guy who likes Star Trek, you're a certain kind of guy. But it felt to me like if you were a girl who likes Star Trek, you just happen to be a girl who likes Star Trek.
Really?
And see, what I feel and Alexei, I'd be interested to know what your answer is to this, but what I feel like that tells me about a guy is I feel like that tells me that he's intelligent, that he has an imagination, and that he longs for greater things.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how you could love the show and not be those three things.
Exactly. Like, and I think it tells me that about a person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not even like beyond, with male, female, whatever. Like, so that's why it's like, for me, like, it's sort of an instant, like, you're my people, because you long for the same things I do, you value the same things I do. Like, you're into having that intellectual conversation and those philosophical discussions about life, the universe, and everything that, like, I just don't think everybody does. You know what I mean? Like, I am much more likely to want to hang out hardcore with somebody that's like, you crazy Trek fan than someone who's like super into sports. Not that I have anything against sports, but like, I don't have anything to relate with you about. Like, I feel like I used to play sports when I was a kid. I find them fun. I'm not really into watching sports personally, but like, I feel like I have more to talk about with someone who's into Star Trek. Like, the flow of conversation just goes better. Like, I just kind of, I don't know, like, I just feel like we're on the same wavelength in some way, like, which is not to say, I mean, I have friends who, who are super into sports, but like, they're also into Star Trek. You know what I mean? Like, it's, I mean, I think if you were to line up my friends, like, almost all of them are into Star Trek. Like, it's like a litmus test. It's like, oh, well, you like Star Trek. That means we can talk.
The true outside of, it's been different in my adult life, but or my later adult life, but when I was younger, I would find, like when I think of the guys I knew who were really into Star Trek, the guys who would watch it every week, they were like really into Star Trek, and that was like a thing when I think about them, and I go back and I think, I think my friend Robert or Eric, who's been on the show, or Tom, who's been on the show, I think they're guys who are really into Star Trek. But if I go back to I had a high school girlfriend, she really liked Star Trek. It was just a thing. When I think of her now, I don't think, oh, she's the one who really likes Star Trek. Like, it didn't seem to be. And it's interesting. So the Force Awakens trailer just came out, like I said, a week ago, and when I first commented on Facebook, this like high school friend of mine was like, this girl I went to high school, a woman now, and a girl when we were in high school. She said, was that like asking all these things? Yeah, wasn't it cool? What'd you think? And this is not someone I ever really talk about. Not someone I ever thought about being someone who was into Star Wars or geeky things or anything like that, because it was just not the way that girls seem to define themselves. I didn't see a lot of girls wearing Kirk versus Picard shirts. I didn't see that as much. If I found out a girl liked Star Trek, it was, she liked Star Trek, but it was not that thing. Whereas for a lot of people, me later in life, but like I wore comic book shirt. Like, I was in comic books were my thing. It never seemed to be that thing. As a matter of fact, Alexei, I would say I've known you very, very well. But when I first met you, I wouldn't think that Star Trek was that thing for you. There was that big of a thing for, like, I would think of you're an actress. You did this, did that. The sparkles, the glitter, that's like.
No, I remember, because I think you were like, you were having, like, when you brought up Trekoff and like how you wanted to do like a Trek podcast, like, in my presence. Like, I remember my reaction was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I'm sitting right here, you jackass. Like, because he was like sort of mooning about like a dummy, like being like, I really wish I could find someone to kind of just talk to Star Trek about, talk about Star Trek with, and like, and I'm like, I mean, Melissa, if you could have seen the look on my face, like, I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, and then he like tried to give me this like test. Like I would lie. Like I would, you know what I mean? Like I'd be like, oh yeah, no, I like Star Trek. Like, you know, it was just like, it was some bullshit I would say.
I was auditioning you. It's what I do.
It was really funny. Like I was like, how could you not know? Like what about me doesn't communicate to you that I love Star Trek?
You know what it is though? What doesn't communicate to you, like okay, so example, and now that I've gotten to know you better, I would see the signs, but like, okay, I said I like comic books.
Mm-hmm.
The shirt I'm wearing right now is a Minecraft Avengers shirt.
Nice.
Like I didn't see you walking around wearing, and every t-shirt you ever see me wearing is like, it's a geeky t-shirt, like always.
Mm-hmm.
When in the summer it's all I ever wear. Like it just, I guess maybe girls, especially back in the 90s, didn't have a ton of geek to wear on their chests.
We really didn't. That's what I'm saying. Like it just didn't exist.
And I was looking.
And the other thing, the other thing is too, I think men have always been more ceremonial, if you will. So, I mean, you think men in uniforms, you join the Boy Scouts, you get a uniform, you join whatever, you sign up, you get a uniform, and I think so men are maybe more exterior with those things.
Oh, I think they are, and I think they're more visual too, in general.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Right, so you want to identify with...
Sorry, I'm still back there at the chest.
So you're looking for the
Star Trek is
for a chick that's into
Star Trek is just such a it's just such a normal thing to me. Like, it just didn't occur to me that people would find it abnormal. But like, as an adult, I do have people who'll say, they'll be like, you like Star Trek,
right?
And they're like that. I'm like, well, why wouldn't I? I'm an intelligent, normal human being. Why wouldn't I?
Why wouldn't I like it? I love that. That's a great response. Like, I'm sorry, why wouldn't I?
But the great thing is, because I'm just kind of a Star Trek evangelist, so like, it makes everybody else around me comfortable to enjoy the fact that they like Star Trek. And I mean, like, I'll be in a planning meeting with my pastor, and he'll tell me to do something, but like, instead of just telling me to do it, he'll be like, make it so. And I mean, I can just tell that he thoroughly enjoys that,
That's awesome.
and it's just, that's great. And because the thing about Star Trek is that it is this complex, in-depth, huge universe. So anyone who wants to can find something in it to identify with. And you find your spot in that universe, and your imagination just opens up. And I think hopefully it's not a one-way trip, because what my hope is, and as a podcast host, as Justin mentioned, we're coming to the end of the Delta Quadrant, and so we'll all be kind of giving our final summations here in the next couple of weeks. So I don't want to give away too much of that. But my hope is that with Star Trek as a story, just like any other story, as a human species, the reason why we tell stories, from the dawn of when we can remember, we sat around fires and there was the storyteller who would tell the story. We do this to pass on the things that we value, the things that are important to us, so that we can enter into those stories and learn something. And then hopefully we come back out of those stories, we go out into the real world, and we make those important things real. And so I that's what I hope for any Star Trek fan, that you find your spot in that universe where your imagination takes root. You learn these things. You learn about selflessly giving of yourself. You learn about honor. You learn about truth. You learn about these things. And then the story closes, and you get up from the storyteller. You march out the door, and you are true and honorable and selfless and giving to all of the aliens that you meet just outside your door. I mean, and I think if that
blew my mind, dude.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, what I want is there to be like a revolution, and like the way that our world works, and like and to get to a place where we have Star Trek. you know, where we have that society where everybody, you know, is pursuing their passions and helping other people, and nobody has to go hungry, and nobody has to not have a home, and like we just have this beautiful society where there's no hate and there's only love, and like we like what we can accomplish if we get there, you know, like I want it to inspire people to, yes, like go out in the world and like help make that happen, like help be a part of that change in the world around us.
And yeah, and I think just like in the Star Trek universe, where they show us characters like Barclay, like for the big example, these people who get stuck in the holodeck, they get stuck in the story, and we know people like this in real life, right? I mean, we know those people who get they so want to run away from their reality that they kind of get so stuck in this fantasy that they never close the book. They never walk out the door and live with the story. Instead, they just get kind of trapped there. And I think that's, you know, it's too bad that happens. But you know, we want to be able to close the book, and we want to be able to take that story on with us into our lives, so that we have the story to tell the next generation, just as it was told to us. Yes, well, exactly.
I was wondering, to back up to where you were, to sort of the second half of what I want to talk about with you guys. I've heard about what it's like now to be a woman who's a fan of Star Trek, but you talked about you imagine yourself being there. We've had a lot of talk about women in Star Trek, and it's funny for a show that I feel like was not always perceived as the most masculine show in the world. I feel like women have always been really a bit underserved in Star Trek, and I think that the Next Generation is the worst at that, despite what a good show it is. I think there's this really telling moment, and I've talked about it before in the episode Cupid. Where everybody's, you know, fighting the evil Q sheriff of Nottingham, and Captain Picard is Robin Hood, and the only two actors on the set who had real experience in like swordplay were actually Dr. Crusher and Counselor Troy. They were the ones who had been trained in stage combat, and all they would do is give them pots to break on people's heads, and it was
such a missed opportunity.
And these are, of course, the two women on this show are both the caregivers. One's the healer and the mom, and the other one is the counselor to talk about your feelings. And like I feel like Next Gen was kind of the worst at kind of putting women in their place.
Yeah, I think once Tasha Yar was gone,
connotation,
you know,
yeah.
Like, because when Tasha Yar was there, I felt like she was awesome. Like that for me, in any case, was like, yes, you know what I mean? She was badass. She was in control of her situation. Like, she was heroic. She was brave. She was all the things that I want to be. You know what I mean? It was like, which is not to say that I don't, you know, want to be caring or the other feminine roles they sort of had on that show, but like it sucked when she was gone, like when we didn't have that anymore and all we had left, which is like, not that there's anything against being a doctor or a caregiver, or there's anything against being, you know, a therapist essentially, but like it felt more to me like finally taking that step of like, here's a woman in a like sort of traditionally male role. And it's totally fine. Like, it's not weird, it's not talked about, like it just is.
And I think that's why Ensign Ro, when she finally showed up on the scene, resonated with people so much. I mean, I think that like suddenly you had someone who shows up on the scene who is not those two things.
Right.
And I think yeah, go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I really did enjoy the character of Ensign Ro, and oddly, I would say that I enjoy characters like Ro or Vosh or a number of other characters far more, actually, than I enjoy the character of Janeway, who is technically now in the captain's seat. Because I don't. This is just my. Personally, I don't think that. I don't think if you want to call it, you know, feminism or woman power, whatever it is you want to call it, I don't think that the fulfillment of that necessarily means that women have to be the leader, the one in charge. I think that what it means is that a woman needs to be fully, gloriously feminine in all of those ways, and allowed to flourish as that, and allowed to be an equal participant in what's going on. That doesn't necessarily mean she has to be giving orders. It just means that she has to be allowed to be the fullness of who she is. So I look at characters like Ro, for example, who's this freedom fighter, basically. You know, she has left it all behind for a cause that she believes in. I look at characters like T'Pol, actually, in Enterprise, who I see as kind of a missionary, really, in what she's doing. She's been sent by her people to mentor this young fledgling human crew who resent her. But she's there, and she's taking the crap.
But then, you know, the Berman crew shits all over that,
Yeah,
and says that's her job, that's her function, but let's smear KY all over for a little bit.
Yeah,
Well,
I hate that kind of stuff. And I feel like, I mean, I don't know what you mean when you say feminine, but like to me anyway, like that, the idea of something being like feminine or masculine is somewhat offensive to me, like as an idea, like, because like what does that even mean? Like I get into conversations sometimes, or maybe I'm a bit radical on the feminist scale, but like sometimes I get into conversations with people about, like, say, playing sports, like, and like there's a girl team for this sport because boys play this way, and I'm like, what do you mean boys play this way? Like they're like because they're boys, and girls have to be feminine and they have to wear skirts. And it's like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, they're just people. Like, and that was when that's when Star Trek shone for me, for women, was when it wasn't about them being a woman. It wasn't relevant. They were who they were. They were people.
I think that the problem, though, you can get into is that there are people who don't write them as women either, where what you essentially do is because they've gone, and I think this is the problem they've had with Janeway, is that Janeway is either she's the mommy and everyone's a family, or they've essentially written she's essentially a man with long hair and boobs.
Right.
And I've been on the record as saying I didn't love the first like 3 or 4 seasons of what Terry Farrell did as Dax. I liked her a lot better later, but if you look at later Terry Farrell Dax, that is, in my opinion, the best Star Trek ever got with a woman, because she was absolutely feminine. She was absolutely not a man with long hair. She was also absolutely, her job had nothing to do with the fact that she was also feminine. And her toughness had nothing to do with that. She was, it's not feminine, it's not the word. She was absolutely female.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't like the word feminine. Like, there's a connotation there, but female. Exactly. Like, I don't, like, she wanted to be pretty. She went on dates. She, you know what I mean? She was a woman, but it wasn't about her being a woman. Like, she didn't have to have, and when she would fight with Worf and stuff and demand respect for, being as able a fighter, it was like I could really get in her corner on that stuff. I could really feel her on there.
Yeah, I really do think that there is an essential difference between the concept of feminine and masculine. And I think that feminine is a really beautiful, glorious thing that I wish we saw more of in the world. I think we actually see less and less of it. And I would agree with Justin with his evaluation of the character of Jadzia Dax. She was wonderfully, gloriously strong, intelligent, beautiful, feminine, and I loved seeing that. What tends to irk me with Janeway's character is that they don't let her be that. They do try to masculinize her character, and it just comes off wrong. I really do think there's this mysterious thing that is feminine, that the world needs so much more of, to see in a strong, glorious, intelligent light.
I guess I just like to see it more in men as well, right? Like, because I feel like when we talk about feminine and masculine, like, I do think there are certain qualities we associate with that, and I think that the idea that one or the other is relegated to one sex or the other is what I sort of take issue with. It gets me, like, makes me upset. Like, the feminine should be just as lauded as the masculine, so to speak. Like, I absolutely agree with that statement. I absolutely agree with it, and I think that
And I think that to demean one is to necessarily destroy the other. And so when you have strong, glorious, beautiful, intelligent, feminine women being allowed to be feminine, it frees men to be masculine, and vice versa. It's like that. It's like the old saying, "What's the best way to teach a man how to be a gentleman? Be a lady." That's the best way to do it. That's the best way to do it. And there's just there's a foundational, essential truth there. And when you relegate a woman to the level of a sex object, you haven't just destroyed her femininity, which you have done, but you've also chained all of the men around her to not be truly masculine because they're demeaning this woman.
Yeah, they're just too busy being, sexualizing this woman. Like I would find that so offensive if I were a man. Like that I somehow am incapable of seeing a woman as anything else. You know, like I can't have an intelligent thought. I can't carry on a conversation. Like
that was the difference between ultimately between like Seven and T'Pol for me. I mean, look. They both wore cat suits. They both were absolutely sexy. And the fact is as a red-blooded American man, what I like to see form-fitting butts and boobs. It's something I like.
I get it. I like boobs and butts as well. It's fun.
But here's the thing: is that what Seven brought to it is she was like, yeah, you know what? I'm hot. Look at me, I'm hot. Guess what? I'm also smart. Guess what? I'm also strong. Guess what? I'm also complicated. So when I first saw Seven, I absolutely sexualized her. It's what I did, and that I wish that they hadn't done that. And I would say that my favorite, they tried to do it to Troy. I never found Troy sexier than when she put on a Starfleet uniform. Oddly. Like
I don't
suddenly,
think that's that odd. That's what I'm saying. Like I feel like if the sexuality there is not linked to her having tits and ass. Like all women have that. Like all men have, some form of tits and ass. Like it's not even about that. Like to me, and to most people, I would hope anyway, like what's attractive and what sort of gets your sexual juices flowing, so to speak, is the package that they present. Like is the intelligence that they may have, the imagination that they may have, the conversations that you can carry on.
When I first saw Seven, I immediately wrote her off as a ploy by the producers to titillate. And I was like, yeah, look at her. And she, through what she did, earned my respect. Then they showed me T'Pol. Then they showed me T'Pol, and I had goodwill left over from Seven. So I was like, okay, yeah, they've dressed her in a cat suit too, but look, she's also supposed to be smart and complicated. And I feel like it's a combination of the writing and the over immediate sexualization, and to be fair, the actress she was a model first, not an actress, instead of an actress first, and so they wanted someone who was even more tits and ass and not who couldn't bring it in the same way. And ultimately I left feeling like she was a lesser character. And it's I mean, I just wonder as a woman what it's I'll let me sidetrack for a second because and we can talk about this. I was having forgive me, Melissa, I'm sorry in advance. I was having a conversation with my wife about the term getting some pussy. And just because I heard someone saying, and I was having this conversation with my wife about like what does that term or getting some out, what is that term? How does that make you feel? Because they're talking about getting a, but when they say getting some, they mean getting a, and when they're saying getting a, well then you're relegating a person to just being the a this. And she was like, I never really thought of it that way. It just means it's another term for someone wants to go out and have sex with people. And that's what the term means. And she like, I didn't even think about all the connotations of what that sentence is saying, because getting some pussy is getting a pussy, which is getting a person who has that, and that's all the value you're giving that person. And I wonder, like in the way they presented T'Pol at first, when it comes out in that way where it's like she's supposed to be all these things, but we're rubbing jelly all over each other. It's the camera's ogling for you. The difference between a play and a movie is that the camera tells you where to look. Like
Right.
you have no choice but to ogle her because the camera's doing it for you.
Oh yeah, like the
Um,
fucking close-ups and the goo and the like. He's putting it on her like she can't reach her own stomach. It's right fucking in front of her.
yeah,
Like I mean, it was
putting the
so
fingers right
overt.
under the panty line. Like it was just
Yeah, it was so overt. It was so.
It,
I was like, oh man, why are you doing this? Like, why are you
it,
sexualizing?
I can't even defend any of that other than to say if you can just like skip over that 30 seconds in your DVD, you know, which you can't do the first time you see it. But no, that was
But I
terrible.
do
That
now,
was just
yeah. Like I just yes, it's terrible. But if you get past it, like I'm with you. I felt like as a character, like I don't know, she didn't ever achieve the same level as Seven. I get that because I mean
no.
that was just Seven. The actress really just did the shit out of that. You know what I mean? Like she sold it. Like she gave you this really complex person, and I feel like we didn't really get that into Paul. But I do love that she was there to be their beacon, that she was there to guide them in their pursuits because they'd never been out there before. So she was like a teacher, and
She was.
and I liked that. I did like that she had that sort of vaulted position.
she was also emotionally unstable. She was all the things that a man might say negative about her. Like it just, I felt like ultimately it was clearly men were writing her into that role, and I never felt like she grew above it. I wanted to because we don't have that much time left, but I wanted to jump into Voyager because we haven't talked outside of 7 and 9 talked about Voyager. Alexia has said on a number of occasions that she feels like Voyager became a show that was so about quote unquote women's issues, that she's pregnant and this person's pregnant, there are babies everywhere, just people are just popping out babies. It's weird. It's babies
Because we talk
popping
about
out.
women, we gotta talk about it popping out babies because that's what they are.
And you know, and Janeway's a mom, and now we're all a family, and we're all, you know, and that it's that for a show that was supposed to be women centered, that Alexia feels that it was not that. I have disagreed, and that my position has always been that it did break the ground in having Janeway be a female captain, and there were times that they got it right. That 7 of 9 is the most three-dimensional female character that we ever have had or will have in Star Trek. That the journey of B'Elanna Torres is an interesting one, and one that I've seen actual women like go through from their 20s into their 30s, from feeling like the world has embittered them to being happy to be a mom and happy to be a wife while also never giving up any of the strength that they also had and the command that she had. She ends the show with a rank higher than her husband. So Melissa, I'm going to come to you on that and go. What are your thoughts on all of those things like that?
Okay. Well,
Go.
you'll have to
5 minutes
go with me on this. But I'm actually going to start out with a philosopher by the name of Hobbes, who wrote a book called the Leviathan, and basically, just real briefly, his idea was that without some type of political structure, life would just suck. It would be nasty, brutish, and short. We'd all just walk around killing each other. It would be every man for himself. So I remember reading this book in college, and I got to class, we were going to discuss it, and I looked at my philosophy professor and I said, where are the women? There were no women in Hobbes's conception of man in his natural state. And I said, there are no women here. And I think, like it or not, the fact that women are here as a part of society, we do represent, we do hold that standard of community, of family. Like Alexia said, women have babies, and quite frankly, that is nothing to snub your nose at. I mean, women have a higher pain tolerance,
I just don't want it
so
to
that
be
we can
all-
give birth. You know, but this is one of the most amazing things. I think all men are probably just jealous because they can't. But the fact is that this is what women bring to society, I think. And so here on Voyager, I think that it is entirely appropriate that this is the story of a family. If you're going to emphasize, if you will, the feminine element of the story, then I think it should be one that focuses on family and family dynamics and community, because this is what women bring to society, that as women. Not that men don't do that, but I think
what women bring to society that men don't, or in one specific case can't.
Oh, there you go. And so I think Voyager is essentially a story about a family on their way home. And I was thinking about this in that I recently went on a silent retreat for 8 days. And on this retreat, once a day you would sit down and you'd talk to a spiritual director, and you'd talk about what was going on in your prayer life and whatever. And my spiritual director was this little old guy who loved to tell stories about, I really am going to bring this all back to Voyager, I promise. He was this little old guy who loved to tell stories about working in Rome and working with Mother Teresa and working with, all of these famous people. And the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm like, this guy isn't even interested in anything I have to say. He just loves to tell his stories. And then, like halfway through the retreat, he looks at me one day, he says, Melissa, what's the goal? What is it we want? Where do we want to get to? And I was kind of surprised, because I was sort of half not listening to a story. And I looked at him and I said, heaven? Like, in that, just with a question? And he said, no. And I was like, no? And he said, no, we want to go home. We want to go home. We're all looking for the way home. And I was so struck by that really affected the rest of my retreat. And I was thinking about that as I was thinking about with Voyager coming to the end, and that here you have this group of people who've become a family as they're all on this journey looking for the way home. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, and I'm so glad that we had characters in it like Seven of Nine, like B'Elanna Torres, who had a tough childhood, who had to get over her daddy issues, who dealt with those as she was bringing new life into the world, who fell in love with Tom Paris. I'm so glad that we had Seven of Nine who had to really experience the emotional development of childhood and adolescence and becoming a woman and making those decisions for herself. And I'm glad that we had the occasional highlights of Janeway sometimes being a mom and mentoring these young women as a woman with more wisdom and experience than they had. And I'm glad we had that family characteristic. I think Voyager did do that really well. And I think it's a great analogy for all of us, because regardless of what your family was as a child, I think we are, all of us, at whatever point in the journey of life we're on, not home yet. And we're all looking for that. And the way that we deal with that, and the way that we deal with the emotional burden of that, is that we create family. If we don't have family, we create it, whether it be our friends, whether it be our brothers and sisters, whoever that is. We create that family and those bonds, and those people remind us of who we are when we would rather forget. And
wow.
And they show us the way home, And I think that's what the Voyager crew has been for each other.
I don't see that when I watch it. I really don't. I wish I did. It sounds lovely.
But neither one of us could probably express it as eloquently as you just did. So I want to say, no matter where we fall on our argument, that was incredibly eloquent. Like at this point, this is normally the point where we're like dicks.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, and I hope you don't take this wrong, because I love you, Melissa. But like, for me anyway, it's like I don't see. I get very upset with this idea that women are relegated to things like having babies. Like, I have no pride. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think childbirth is great. I think that women who want to be mothers, it's amazing, and that's really, really difficult. But like, what I didn't like about the show, and why that upset me, that there were these women in these traditional women roles, and that we had, and of course, if the ship has a bunch of women, well, then they're all going to get pregnant, right? Because that's what women are for. Like, that is how it felt to me anyway. Like, where I was like, listen, like women aren't just about having babies. Like I would have loved, like I liked it when it wasn't about that. You know what I mean? Like when it was like, because there were families on Next Gen as well. You know, it wasn't made the same. It wasn't like there was a pregnancy every other week. Like there were pregnancies, families happened, and we saw it. And Keiko had her baby, and like that never bothered me. Like it just bothered me that they put such an emphasis on it because it was like this. We have a female captain. This is our female Trek, and that's what women want to see. That as an idea, I find offensive. It's like, listen, I am more than that. Like I personally, I'm not sure if I want to have children. I haven't decided on that yet. I have my moments that go back and forth, but at the end of the day, like I'm not just about popping out babies. That's not the only reason I'm here. Like I have more value than that, and I really wanted that show to show us that. To really show us, to have this female captain and not have her be just a dude, not have her just be a woman trying to be in a dude's role and so just like being completely female-like. I wanted her to just be real. I wanted to have, like, that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see women following their dreams, being out in space, like you were saying, like it's fucking heroic. You know what I mean? Like going out into space, and especially when these people get lost so far from home, like to see them sort of band together as a family is great, but like they're all doing that. Like to think that to sort of have that be a female thing, and like that's why it's happening. Like I feel like there was a sense of family on Next Gen too. You know, and it's like I wanted it to feel that way, and it didn't to me. It very much felt like we have to tell.
On Next Gen, that aspect of family wasn't there. One person on Next Gen had a child, and they had almost no relationship.
Right.
I mean, that's like you could have an entire Wesley-centered episode where Dr. Crusher didn't show up. Like on Wesley's final episode, she shows up for one scene that seems like it was written last minute. Like it's like I don't see that relationship at all. As a matter of fact, the only relationship that I see that sort of resembles a real parent relationship is Cisco Jake. Yeah, it's in any of the Star Treks. Like somebody who has a child and is a parent to that child. So I mean,
Alexia, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Okay. You mentioned earlier, like we are so much more as women than the act of giving birth. You know, than giving birth to women. I totally agree with you on that. A question I have for you though is, so for myself example, I can't have children physically, but I see myself in the full maturity of myself in many ways to many people as a mother. And I pride myself in that. And what I mean when I say that is that I give of myself for other people. I mentor other people. That the act of bringing life into the world, of creating things, is fundamental to me, and I'm proud of that. That's what I mean when I say that even though I can't bear children, I am a mother as a woman. So I guess I would put that question to you, whether you have children or not, ever in your life. Do you see yourself at times or in places or with certain people as a mother?
No, I guess it just doesn't occur to me that way. Like I do feel like I have a niece who I feel like I try to be there for her as much as I can because she's sort of a little bit different than the rest of her family. She's a lot like Mr. A, and so she's weird, which I love, right? But I've never felt like our relations, like I've never felt motherly. Like I felt like I try to guide her in some ways, if I know more, like in any relationship with people that I have, like where I feel like I have something I could contribute, where I'm like, I've experienced this and I'll pass my, what little wisdom I may have on to you, and maybe it'll help you, maybe it won't, but like I've never felt like motherly in that. Like I don't know, maybe I just don't think of it that way, like maybe it is, but like it doesn't occur to me that way because I've never really. Like I like having, I have fun with kids, I play with kids, but I feel like when I do that, I feel more like I am a kid than like I'm an authority figure or someone who's doing anything.
Sure. But and you're an artist, right? I mean, you're an actress, you're an artist, so creating is very important to you. I would I would assume, and I think that in that act of creating, of adding something to the sum total of that which is existence is important to you as an artist. I would see that in you as a maternal aspect. Now, the reason that I bring this up is that I think that so in a show like Voyager, if they're going to focus on women, I want to see those women in various ways being maternal in that sense. I want to see them being mothers in that sense. I want to see them being, and I could create a description similar to that as, I think women are that. We are mothers in a sense, and we are wives in a sense. Whether we ever give birth, whether we ever marry a man, because that's just part of our nature. So I think to tell a woman's story, these are the things that we point out. Just like, take a look at Captain Picard, for example. He is a paternal figure. He never gets married. He never has children. But as the captain of that ship, I would say that he's very much a father.
Absolutely. But I guess that's the thing for me. I suppose, to me, those terms, aren't the same. What you're considered, the creativity and what people bring to sort of the world around them, I feel like we all have that, men and women. And so, it's not necessarily a maternal thing to me. It's like a, gosh, I wouldn't even know what you would call it, but, it's people giving to each other and giving of themselves to others and building community together. It doesn't seem like a strictly female thing, and it's feminine, though. I get that, because the image of a mother is a feminine image, and I think that men have that though too. Mr. A is, probably in some ways far more feminine in that way than I am. You know what I mean? He's much better at being a caregiver, for instance, than I am. I it's not to say I don't care about people, but he's just it comes more naturally to him than it does to me.
Sure.
And I think that what I want to see, and that's what I wanted to see on Voyager then, was that the continuation of that, to just see people and to see them giving of themselves to each other and how they grow together. Because I felt like there was that sense of family, that the Enterprise, that they were a family. You know what I mean? Picard was the head of the family, if you will. I don't need, for me anyway, it doesn't need to be a label, he's the father or the mother, but he was the head of that family, and they all bound together though. And that's I know one episode we were talking about how they just always trusted each other, and it was because of that. They felt you're not gonna just make some shit up. If you're telling me that you're seeing this thing or this fucked up thing is happening, I'm gonna believe you until I have reason not to. And I didn't get that same vibe on Voyager.
Can I ask you a practical? Can I ask you a practical Voyager question? If I could cut five episodes out of Voyager, would your opinion of the show as a whole change? If I could cut out, the both of the episodes where they essentially deal with Kes on her period, and I could cut out the one episode where Janeway gives birth to a baby as a lizard.
God.
Which we can all cut out for a bunch of reasons, but that's
right.
That's the Janeway pregnancy episode, and I could cut out, even just change the name of her boyfriend at home from Brad. So it's not so I'm a woman and you're Brad at home with a dog, I wish I could go home to my Brad, Jen. If I could just change those details, keep B'Elanna's pregnancy.
I wonder, it's an interesting question. I almost, maybe what I should, if you come up with this list of the things to take out,
just 5 episodes, because I feel
I should go back and watch it again, and just skip them and see how I feel. Because, I said, I don't, part of what, one of the things I did actually like about Voyager was B'Elanna and Tom Paris, and I don't even like Tom Paris, but I liked.
I love Tom Paris, by the way.
I liked having some insight into a marriage, much in the same way that I liked having insight into Keiko and Miles's, marriage and their child. I didn't, it wasn't that I mind family or that I mind family ideas or that you know what I mean? It was just that everything was about that. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was how it felt when I watched Voyager, as opposed to like, and this is the family that we're, you know, these are the cast of characters that we have, right? And then this is the family that we have, and then this is there's this family over here, and this is how they work, and you know, there's this person over here that's dealing with their shit, and they're kind of single and angry, and you know what I mean? Like, where you've got everything is kind of represented in the world, as opposed to like, oh well, if you know, like I said, like if you're women, well then they're pregnant because that's what women do. Like I just that as an idea is upsetting to me, and I wonder if I would, because I definitely once 7 of 9 shows up, I enjoy the show a lot more. Like her interactions are far more interesting to me. And even the ones that are romantic, like with her and the doctor. Like I feel for both of them, you know, where I'm like I feel for her because she's kind of so cut off for herself, like because of how she's grown up essentially, and he's reaching out and he can't really ever connect there, and it's so sad and it breaks my heart. But I like those stories. Like I enjoy watching those stories. I feel like I just feel like at some points they really tried to soap opera-ize it, and I didn't like that idea. I was like, there's plenty of fucking soaps out there for people that like soaps. Like there's nothing wrong with a soap, but that's not why I watch Star Trek. I watch Star Trek for, like you said, the storytelling. I watch it for the philosophy. I watch it for the imagination. I watch it for the exploration. I watch it for the way that these people interact and the things that they deal with and how they deal with them, and the fact that usually they don't give us the answer. You know, we see like one half of it, but we hear all of it, and it makes you think. That's why I watch Star Trek, and that's what I want to see. So when they did that, I enjoyed it. I just felt like they didn't do it as much as the other shows, and maybe it's because I got too hung up in my anger over like things like the fucking lizard pregnancy episode.
Oh, and Kes is like, I'm on my period. I need to make sure that I have a baby. Am I going to do that now? I could see you just going, what the fuck is this horseshit?
Yeah.
I you just see that. I can see that.
Yeah, I was just like, are you kidding me right now? And especially since the fucking trailer cut, they were like, whose baby is it? Like, it was absolutely, the trailer cut was identical to a trailer cut. Because I used to watch soap operas. Like when I was in high school, I had 3 soaps that I watched religiously, and there was the clip for one of those soap operas was about some storyline where, you know, this girl got pregnant and whose baby was it, and it was like it almost could have been the same fucking trailer frame for frame. Like it was ridiculous. I was like, wow. And that was when I shut off Voyager. Like that, when I saw that ad, I was like, and I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore.
You know, I have to say, like, they're just I honestly believe, having done this now, having done the Voyager podcast and being almost done with it, there is, thus far in my experience, no better way to watch, I think, any show of Star Trek than to watch it episode by episode and then have a long, drawn out, sometimes intelligent, sometimes not so much intelligent conversation about each one, because I think that I think I appreciate the show Voyager so much more having done that. And the first time I saw the show, which was basically just, you know, inhaling it through Netflix, totally different experience, because those things do creep in where you're like, oh, I'm seeing this all the time, and it's easy to overlook the other things that are happening. So, you know, maybe if you get a chance to go back and watch it, maybe do it in small pieces. And
well, I'll take the step as we wrap up. That, and I've said this when other Delta people have been on before, that the Delta Quadrant has changed the way I look at Voyager. I was never a Voyager apologist. The only conversation we would ever have is, which is the worst show? Is Enterprise the worst, or is Voyager the worst? And that's what Alexi and I would. That was the extent of our conversation about it. I will say this, that I'm not going to be going back and watching Enterprise really at all, and I'm not really ever going to go back and watch Voyager. I don't think really at all. I just think there's enough other Trek that I can watch instead. But for me, I feel like Enterprise is clearly the inferior show, and the reason it feels so clear is I feel like I have this in-depth understanding of Voyager, and a lot of that is because of the Delta Quadrant. So if you ever want me to come around to Alexia's way of thinking, you guys need to do the old quadrant, or whatever you want to call it, and just do Enterprise next, because that might change my view on Enterprise. To hear you guys do it, listening to you guys do it every week has changed it for me. So I feel like we could go for hours longer, But I think
know, right?
it's a good. I feel like it's a good place to wrap up. So, Melissa, thank you for joining us. Do you want to plug Delta one more time, or anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, well, absolutely. We only have a few weeks left, but you can catch all of the episodes of the Delta Quadrant at Trekmate. Oh my gosh, I should have written this stuff down before I got here. At Trekmate at trekmate.uk.org. I think.
No, why don't we make it really easy? If you're
Matt
listening
always
to
reads this
this
stuff
show
off.
right now, you're probably using some kind of pod feed, and it probably has a search thing on it. Like if you're on iTunes listening right now, or you're on your Android, or whatever you're using to listen, just go to the search and look for the Delta Quadrant, because if we're on there,
Yes.
they're on there. So
Yeah.
find them and subscribe. Don't just listen to one, subscribe.
And yes, and you can email us at deltaquadrantpodcast@gmail.com.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming on.
Thank you
Really
so
like
much,
you being here.
Melissa.
This was so much fun.
This was, you know what? I had such a great time. I had such an awesome time. Thank you so much for letting me join you.
So I know you're not going to do it, although I'd love it if you did.
Oh, I would love it if you would.
Because Alexia has a catchphrase, which is
Trekoff, bitches.
and we take that away from her and let our guests do it when they come on. So what I'm going to do?
Okay, I'll do it.
I'm going to end the show. Here we go. My name is Justin.
And my name's Alexia.
Trekoff. Go, Melissa.
And this Trekoff, bitches.
Ah!
Did I say it right?